and welcome to the Loan Officer Team Training Podcast. We're so glad to have you here, Glenn, today. We have Glenn Geraci from Jacksonville, Florida. He is a loan officer, a broker owner in Jacksonville, and we're so excited to have you here today, Glenn.
No, Irene, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. It's an honor to be selected to speak to the group. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, for sure you were selected because I have the honor of coaching you. I have the privilege and honor of coaching you. And I have seen so many amazing changes that have happened since you started. So we've been coaching together almost a year, but you were in the Freedom Club before that with Jeff, a different coach.
Right.
And so you've come so far. And I'm just so proud of you. I had to just get you on the podcast and tell people, for you to share the things that you've done that have helped you to get pretty much double what you did in January, in April, and definitely May. So let's talk about some of the things. Let's start out by talking about some of the things that you've really done. And I know you've had some challenges. It hasn't been easy. So people can't get in their minds that, oh, well, he had it easy, or he had a coach, or he had this or that. It really, we're going to talk about some of the things that have gotten in your way, have been obstacles for you as well. So let's start out by talking about how you felt a year ago when we started working together, almost a year ago, not quite. How did you feel about making the phone calls, like making outbound phone calls to agents?
Yeah, it was inconsistent at best. I felt like I would get on the phone when I absolutely had to. It was almost, I felt like I was painted into a corner, looking at my checking account dwindle and saying, boy, I really need to get some deals in the door, and really, calling from a position of desperation, which, that definitely comes through on the calls. And even though we have the scripts and everything, when I didn't really have much in the way of just, cash reserves behind me, I believe that comes through. But to stay consistent, the coaching and the daily call plan, call stars has been a big integral part for me of overcoming some tips and tricks and strategy for overcoming the call reluctance, and just realizing that it's not about me. I really am trying to add value to their business, and just realizing that, top agents, they have, not only do they have a lot of relationships, but they could be going through some things personally. And once I've had some coffees, you'd be surprised at the number of people that have had health challenges, elderly parents, kids going through things, and so forth. So what I really just had to come to grips with is that it's not about me, and that if I simply do my part and be consistent, the results will show up over time. So that's really, it's just a testament to the fact that the marketing animal Carl system really works. And I don't know if I'd still be in the business without it, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's amazing when you do the activities consistently that we map out. It's amazing what happens, but it's not always that easy, right? At the beginning, you had some challenges of just being consistent, and we worked together. Talk about some of the things that you did to make sure that you made your calls, as far as you can remember back then.
Yeah, one of our first coaching calls that we had, Irene, I remember you telling me I had heard it during the conference, but to actually be told one-on-one, it's like, hey, is your computer shut down? Does your team know that you're on the call? And unless it's a fire drill, like you're going to lose a loan right now, the calls, you really need to honor and protect that time. So I have, shut my cell phone off. Don't check my email prior to getting on call starts for that 2-hour window, and just setting systems up with my team where if something does happen and I have a call being forwarded, Glenn's helping another family right now, because I'm on the phone
Exactly
right
what
now
you're doing.
prospecting for business so I can help my family. So it's kind of how I'm looking at it. And really, just putting a handful of things in place. It's still not perfect, but I'm a lot better off than where I was 6 to 9 months ago, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about what Call Stars is, because some people may not know what Call Stars
Yeah.
is. So tell us what it is.
It's a daily accountability group. We all get on a Zoom call at 9:30 a.m. for the East Coast people, and then there's a West Coast one as well that happens, I believe, at noon, which I've been on before.
Yes, at 9 a.m. Pacific time,
Right.
which is noon your time.
And basically what it is, it's a dedicated group that shows up every day. we review scripts, we may role play a little bit, talk about some of the challenges that are going on, talk about wins that we have on the call. And if there's anything that's working, it's really a community that holds each other accountable and we share. And for me to have that running in the background, it makes me feel like I'm not the only one. I'm not so alone working on my own, trying to deal with the internal banter in my head to get on the call. So it definitely helps get past. And it's always great to report like, hey, I made 28 calls and talked to 8 or 9 people and set 2 or 3 appointments. Like that wouldn't have happened if it was just left to my own devices. I'm just not going to do that. I'm probably
Yes.
going to make a phone call or two, but you know what? That was a great call. Let me go run off and go to the bank or do something else that's a low level, not as productive. So
Right.
and it gets
Yes.
the day started off on the right tone as well, knowing that I played offense to market and brand myself and to offer value to agents and customers
Yes.
first thing in the morning.
And you know what I love about that is you really are helping families when you're on the phone because you're helping the real estate agents' families
That's
as
right.
well and their clients' families because of the way you service them when they come to you. And when you're calling out, you're actually helping people because they're going to have an amazing loan officer, an
Mhm.
amazing loan officer team to work with, and that's going to help the real estate agent, it's going to help their families, it's going to help the families of the people that are buying homes because they're going to have a wow experience because of the way you treat them.
Right.
And so I love that you're reframing that from, oh, I'm bothering people or, oh, I shouldn't be making so many calls. It's so easy to do that, right?
It sure is. And you're just, again, just realize that it's not about you. And, one of the things that we talk about at our meetings and events is that, really it's about increasing the number of offers that we make. So, it's a famous expression out there. We miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. But, the formula that we have is offers minus no's equals money. And it really is, it's not, people aren't numbers, but we really need to do a certain amount of activity in order to align ourselves with the right people. Steve
Yes.
Pals talks about, I'm looking for agents that are not only, like-minded, but like-hearted as well. So I
Yes.
feel like at the stage of my career and where I am in my business, I'm interviewing you. I don't want business just from anyone. If someone's going to upset my life or upset everything else that I have going on, and dishonor boundaries that I have because I have family time. And, if somebody has an emergency, we have, systems in place where, people can get pre-approval letters on the weekend and that sort of thing where
Mhm.
I'm not always the answer. So, mhm.
Yes. Well, that's
Yeah.
great. I know for sure we've worked on reframing your thought process when it
Mhm.
comes to making phone calls. We've worked on self-talk and how important it
Mhm.
is because as I always say, and everyone knowing what self-talk is knows this, that your thoughts create your emotions.
It
What you
really
think
does.
about makes you feel a certain way, and then your thoughts create your emotions are going to create what you do, your actions. And then what you do is going to bring the results, good or bad, right?
Yeah, that is so true. And I do look forward to getting up. There's a number of I just remember, having a big pipeline and having all kinds of issues in that pipeline and just dreading Monday morning where like, oh my goodness, I have to get back to all these people and work out all these issues and everything. But the feeling of accomplishment once you've made those outbound calls is just, we have a team meeting with Kelly and Tracy and I. We talk at 8:30 in the morning. We get on Breakfast Club for a little bit, which is a totally different topic altogether, but it's another community that we have in MMA and Call Stars, which is fantastic. I don't get to do it every day, but just to have that intentional time in the morning where I can exercise, get my mind right, plan a little bit for the day, deal with the issues that need to be handled first thing in the morning, and then honor my time so that I can prospect. So it's
Yes.
been a big help in having me structure some my business and having the self-discipline so that I can have more free time. I'm doing about as much as production right now as I ever have, but I have more free time. I really do. Most of my evenings and most of my weekends with the occasional call here and there with a lead are pretty much my own. So I'm really fortunate in that regard. So
That's so awesome. And you just had a daughter graduate, right? With honors. Tell
yes,
us about
yes,
that. It's
yeah,
bragging time for dad.
right. Absolutely. No, my oldest daughter, Natalie, just graduated from USF with high honors, and she's working for a doctor's office in Tampa and heading to PA school in the fall. So I have one off the payroll and I have four more to go. So
I love that. And your mom has been a big influence in her
yes,
life, in their lives, right? So
yeah,
tell us about
absolutely.
that because, we don't ever talk about,
Mhm,
at least I haven't really brought up in this podcast, how
mhm,
important outside family members can be in your journey, right? You're not outside. I meant not immediate family members
mhm.
like your kids, your
Right.
wife, the
Mhm.
husband,
Yeah.
but your mother is a grandmother that has been a big influence on you and your children.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm happy to talk about that. I am in the business specifically because of my mom. I was a young, struggling financial advisor with no contacts at 23, 24 years old. And my mother made the transition from real estate. She had sold her brokerage in New Orleans, moved up to Rhode Island. And, she's killing it as a mortgage loan officer for a bank. And I'm working for a big financial planning outfit. And I sat her down. I'm like, Mom, I watch how you work and I see the money you make and everything. So she was a big inspiration to me 32 years ago to get into business. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And she's a
But
good
she's
influence on
always
your
been there
kids.
for us and just a big support, for the family and for the kids and, dinners at our house on Sundays a lot of the time. So it's great. And we all really appreciate her and look up to her. So
Yeah, I had to bring her up because I know what an influence she's been on you and on your kids as well.
absolutely.
It's been fun to hear about that. And me being a grandma, that's the kind of grandma I want to be.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
No, it's something that I could certainly aspire to. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So in January, you closed 6 loans, which is really good in this
Mhm.
market in
Yeah, that
January.
wasn't the case in, January of 23 by any
That's
stretch.
right. And how many did you do in 23? Do you remember? Remember the number at all?
I wanna say it was right at 42 transactions total.
Okay. But January itself of 23 was not 6, right?
No, it might have been 2 or 3 deals.
Okay. So you
I know there
doubled?
was a number of loan officers that were 15, 20 plus a month loan officers. They had taken a 0 in January,
Exactly.
and
Yes.
I'm making some calls and I'm doing, at least I'm paying my bills, but it
Yes.
was a tough time. It was a very challenged time,
Yeah.
when those interest rates went from, 3.5 to 7 within a pretty short period. We had
Yeah,
never,
even 3 loans in January of 23 was good. But
yeah,
now you doubled that in January of this year. You were
right.
at 2.65 as far as
Yep,
2,650,000.
right.
And then in April, you
Mhm,
almost doubled that number and went to 10. And
right.
it all comes from doing the consistent activities. But you did 10. 10 was great, almost double, but you more than doubled your production at 6 million.
Yeah,
And it was
absolutely.
so fun to celebrate with you and see what you have accomplished. It-
It was a good feeling, but again, it was, I had looked at, what I had done and I had, there's a number of days where I beat myself up, but I had signed Carl's agreement where we had a garage fest, which was just a special invitation to his house where we talked about our one biggest problem. And, Carl was about 6 feet away from me. He's like, Glenn, what's your biggest problem? I'm like, Carl, I'm not on the phone every day. He's like, well, we're going to fix that problem. You're going to sign that book. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And wasn't perfect every day, but I believe I had shared in a prior coaching session that out of the 12 weeks, because we call Monday through Thursday, we don't call on Fridays. I had made it for 45 of the 48 days, and my father was intensive care, so I had missed a day or two for that. But I had showed up, if you will, for 45 of those 48 days. Made somewhere around 770 calls in that 12-week period, booked about 28 appointments, and out of that, got 12 applications, purchase applications in, which I had never really done that. But it was a direct result of just being consistent week after week. And a lot of those newer agents, they didn't pick up the phone. I actually got more than one referral from an agent who acknowledged my phone call on text. They know that I was calling to schedule an appointment, declined the coffee multiple times, but they're sending me leads. I'm like, you know what? I'll take it. And some of those were live deals that I closed. I remember a number of days during that 12-week period being discouraged because I felt like I left 35, 40 voicemails. I'm like, nobody wants to hear from me. Nobody wants to pick up the phone. But one of the things that I had to come to terms with is when you put that when you're putting it out there, you're telling the universe, and not to get spiritual, but you're telling the universe and the powers that be that you're looking for business and that you're calling week after week. And that does have an effect on people.
It
And, I
does.
think that as loan officers, we take it all personally sometimes and we discount it. I'm happy to leave a voicemail for anyone. If they don't pick up, it's just I'm indifferent to whether I get a coffee. Well, of course, I'm happy. But if I don't get a coffee or if they reject me or they send a lead or don't ask questions, it's just my job to put it out there and be consistent day
Yes.
after day. So that was one of the things that just in growing through this process that I had to learn. So I just wanted to say that.
I love that. And I was going to ask you about that anyway. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Because when you think about it, it was a step by step process, right? It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't something that all of a sudden one day everything clicked and you just changed overnight.
No.
It was one step at a time. You had to work through one obstacle, then another,
Mhm.
and then maybe you had to work on that same obstacle again. And it was consistency. It was talking through it. I remember times where we were on the phone and you just talked about how you were feeling that day. And we talked about you pretty much just talked it through yourself. And I was
Right.
just there kind of a moderator, you know?
Yeah, a lot of it's in our head, when we realize that, I believe we do have a part of our brain that wants to keep us stuck where we are and
Yes.
doesn't like change and it
Mhm.
threatens that. It's almost like it's a self-protective mechanism. But, as Carl talks about, when we push through that and, everything that we want, right, is just on the other side of fear. With false evidence
Yes.
appearing real. I remember
Yes.
taking notes on that one day, but it was just it's just so true about life and in general that when we don't make it all about us and just realize that my job is to be present, to listen to what I'm hearing and to offer help and guidance and value where I can. So
Yes. And you're great at relationship building. That's one of your superpowers, in my opinion. But people don't have to have that as a superpower to be successful.
mm,
They just have to be consistent.
right.
Consistent.
Yeah, I would say consistent over perfection. You can mess up a little bit of the script. I've laughed with agents where I got tongue tied in the middle of the script, and I'm like, all right, let me tell you why I'm calling. It's just-
It's happened to
and
all of us.
because truthfully, some of the qualified agents that we're calling, the agents that have done 8 to 10 buy sides a year, who are the people that we should be focusing on, who really need the most help, they understand it because most of my agents that are on my quote unquote focus 40 or my preferred agents that send me more than one or two leads every 60 days. I have a list of those that I call every Monday, and most of them have blocks of time where they have to call past customers and attorneys and financial and people in their sphere of influence. So they understand. So sometimes we get a good laugh out of it. So and I generally, and I go back to the fact that I'm local. I'm in the market. I'm a member of Northeast Florida Association of Realtors. I'm a member of the Northeast Florida Builders Association. I show up a lot of, not all, but I do show up at some of the events to help and volunteer and
Mhm.
sponsor a little bit here and there. But those are just additions to the daily success plan. So
Yes.
if I get a lead or develop a new relationship, like, oh, that's Glenn, I saw you online, or you're the guy that's been calling me every week or what have you. So it's all good stuff. So
Yes. As a mortgage advisor, you know that having a high performing loan team is critical to building a successful business. But training them can be time consuming and it can detract from more important tasks like generating leads and growing your business. But that's where we come in. We created Loan Assistant Mortgage Training Bootcamp, a self-paced online course available immediately to train your team, including newer loan officers, on how to actually do mortgage loans. Our course takes them step by step through the process from taking a complete loan application to creating effective communication with clients, referral partners, and team members. When they complete the class, they will have the training to be an asset to you and your mortgage business. Visit loanteamtraining.com and navigate to the Loan Assistant Mortgage Training Bootcamp tab to review our course details and enroll. With our training, you can confidently delegate and devote your time to growing your business even more. So let's talk about your self-talk a little bit. How we talked about having affirmations every day
Yeah,
really makes a difference because, like we said, your thoughts create how you feel. And so it's important to get the result you want. You have to change your thoughts, right? Because we have wiring that happened to us as we
right,
all of our lives. And
right.
we have to change those old tapes in our mind, in our
Yeah.
head sometimes.
Mhm.
And so maybe you can kind of enlighten the people that are listening, let them know how you did that. Like what was your procedure? What was your process that we mapped out for you?
Yeah, well, there's a there's a few things that I do today that I did not do, say, 6 to 9 months ago. One of those things is I always have positive books by my nightstand. I don't read every night, but I do when I'm making my coffee in the morning, 6:30, 7 a.m. I may go for a walk. I'll listen to Audible. Right now I'm listening to Dan Sullivan's book 10X. So
Oh
I'm just
yeah.
trying to program my mind with positive things. I do keep an eye on the news and the financial markets and rates and so forth. As interested in that as most people are, but I really try to limit the amount of negative that goes into my brain. That's the simplest way I can describe it. Read something intentional, positive. I was doing yoga in the morning for a while, but it got a little bit of a challenge. So I'm pretty much walking, but I have that quiet time in the morning where I can be peaceful, think about my priorities, and time block. So
Mhm.
that's another positive thing that I do to kind of map out what my day, what I want to accomplish that day. And then I have this little card that Carl gives out at the meetings that talks about that we can't control our daily results, but if we follow the process, the laws of averages will play out, and I'll have epic results. And there's a little bit more to it than that, but I don't want to read the whole thing. But
Uh-huh.
just having those little things, it just kind of sets your mind right so that I can be present and just be available and do the best that I can when I'm making my outbound calls.
Yes. When you put those things into your mind intentionally, then that changes your results because of the way you look at things. You reprogram how you look at things when
Mhm.
you specifically, intentionally add those types of thoughts into your mind at the beginning of the day. I love that.
I
So,
believe it makes a difference. And, it's almost comical today. And in some ways, when someone has a bad attitude with me, it's like my heart really does go out for them because I've been there.
yes.
I can hear the tonality in their voice when they're responding to, oh man, you're another mortgage guy calling me, you're the third guy, or whatever it is. Or, people just give me an expletive and hang. It doesn't happen that often, but that used to bother me. It used to take that to heart, used to take that personally. But really, what you're doing is you're armoring yourself and you're making yourself stronger so that when that does happen, like for me, it's just what I'm feeling more than anything is just empathy for the other person. And I'll make a decision based on how bad it is. Do I take them off the list or not take them off the list? That's probably a topic for another call. But it's what I'm just learning more about this is that it's about alignment and timing. And when I do my part, the right people will show up. And I have proof of that now. Whereas when I'm listening to it in the meetings for the first time, or my production's off and I'm struggling, I'm like, yeah, it sounds great for that guy, but he's been doing this for X number of years, and it's going to take me so long. Or the tape in your brain, oh, that doesn't work today. Everybody's getting
Uh-huh.
loans off of AI and Facebook and everything else.
Yes.
That's really dollar for dollar. The phone calls, if I average the amount of money that I've made over the past 90 days and divide that by the number of calls, I haven't done that math yet, but I know that it's probably pushing $100 a phone call.
Oh yeah.
It has to be because I know what I've netted over that period, and I know how many outbound phone calls I've made. So it's just to pick up a piece of plastic to me and to make the better part of $100. I'm like, that's a pretty good bet. I
For
don't
sure.
that this is really all the technology I need right here to get myself up to 8 to 10, 12 loans a month consistently. And then, I have signed up for the AI. I just haven't implemented it yet because I do have some goals for the next quarter, but we'll get there. And I'm
Yes,
confident
one
about
step at a time, right?
it.
That's how you do it. You
Yep.
do one step at a time. And sometimes it's really fast and sometimes it's a little slower, but it's still consistent. The consistency is more important than the speed
Yeah.
because the speed will come when you have the consistency. And that's what I love about what you've done, Glenn, is your
Mm.
consistency. the way you're doing it consistently. And you had a couple challenges that have come up. You might have made a step back and then two steps forward and then one step back,
Mhm.
but you worked through it. So mentally, maybe you could share with other people that are having challenges, different challenges in their life. They might be personal, it might be
Yeah.
the old tapes that are playing in their head.
Mhm.
How did you work through those challenges? Like what got you up in the morning and made you keep going when you didn't feel like you could?
Yeah, the one thing, when you're saying that to me, because I didn't have anything scripted, but the one thing, that I have is I do have my list of whys, like why am I still working? Because, I could likely organize my life and sell some properties and move some things around and downscale my house where I wouldn't really have to work or do this business per se,
Mhm.
but I choose to, and I want to provide for my family and I want to give everybody the opportunities that I've had. And so one of the things that Carl talks about is that it's easy, if you're working just for yourself, to let yourself down. But when you have others that are looking up to you and relying on you, like your family and other
Yes.
people, it's more of a motivator for me.
Yes.
So to have that front and center has been a big help as well.
And for those out there that haven't done this exercise yet, Carl did this at a Freedom Club event a while back where he got a pad of paper, a whiteboard or whatever, and started writing things down. What is your reason? You brought up a why. What's your reason? Maybe some people are putting their kids through college like you did. Maybe some of them are wanting to buy a boat. Some
Mhm.
people want to have the security of having a bunch of money in the bank. It makes them feel better, or invested, not so much in the bank, but invested liquid money, that if something, they have the peace of mind knowing that if something happened to them, they could still have the same lifestyle
Mhm.
because they have that amount of money. It's different for everybody. But
Right.
what we did that day is we wrote down what everyone's why was that
Mhm.
day in that event. And it was powerful. I will never forget that day. It was super powerful. And we're still doing it. For those that didn't go to the event, I've done it in my
Mhm.
coaching calls with them. And
Perfect.
it makes you keep going, doesn't it?
It sure does. Absolutely, it
Yeah,
does.
because it's easy to lose track. It's easy to forget when you're in the middle of the challenge. It's really easy to forget why. Not
Mm.
forget, not that you forgot, but it's not top of mind.
Right. It's easy to get distracted for sure.
Yes, very easy. So I'm just so proud of you, Glenn. I had to have you on the podcast because of what you've accomplished. But it isn't just about accomplishment. You're really good also at connecting with people. The reason why people respond to you is because you are a people person. You can read the room really well. You're friendly, and all of that makes a difference. You know what? I love AI.
Mhm.
I didn't think I would love AI when it first came out. I was a little scared of it,
I was
thinking, oh my
skeptical
gosh,
as
the
well,
world's going to
sure.
go, all different. But you know what? Every time a new innovation has happened, the same thing happened. I was watching the movie Seabiscuit the other day,
Oh, wow.
and I love, that's one of my favorite movies, and I hadn't watched it in a long time.
That's a
And I
great.
love the way they come together, and at the end of the movie, the guy, that the jockey is saying, we thought we were fixing him, the horse,
Mm,
Seabiscuit. It turns out that he was fixing us.
right.
And I just remember thinking that is so true. You come together as a group to accomplish great things. But
Absolutely.
what I just love of what you've done now with AI. The reason I was bringing up AI with
Mhm.
that Seabiscuit is because in that movie, the guy that buys the Seabiscuit horse
Mhm.
and takes a chance on him, they were horses and buggies, and they were building cars, because this was
Mm,
back a long time ago. They
that's
were
right.
building cars, and people were out of jobs because of cars, and it happened during the depression and everything.
Mhm.
But what's happened is, so maybe you don't need all those people to make the cars anymore, but they'll find something else
Absolutely.
innovative that
Yeah,
they will do.
they'll improve their skills or repurpose or something.
Exactly. And that's what I believe, will do
Yeah.
for us. Is it's not so much, yes, it will take some jobs, but those people will get skills in other areas of things that can't be done by AI. And AI, one thing you can't do with AI is connection.
That's true.
To have the kind of connection that you have with people, that show people that you care about them when you get on the phone with them, AI
Mhm.
can't do that.
Yeah.
Maybe someday it might. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
right. You're not
But
quite there yet.
and love and connection and the feeling that you have with people, that you're really, really good at. And so that's one of your superpowers. I've seen it. I've seen you around other people, and I've been coaching you, and I know that's one of your superpowers. But I want to make it clear that loan officers have their own superpower. Everyone has their own superpower.
Absolutely, for
And
sure.
so I don't want someone to listen to this and go, well, Glenn did it because he has a great superpower. He connects so well with people.
Mm.
Yes, you do. But they have their own. Each loan officer has their own superpower.
Absolutely. And, we have a lot of examples of people in the group that just aren't that personal, but they outwork me and most
Yes.
everybody else in the room, and their results speak for themselves. So,
Yes. So I don't
absolutely.
want anyone going away from
No.
this thinking that, oh, Glenn can do it because he has a superpower, even though I mentioned your superpower, because it is a superpower. Anybody can do it if they're
Yeah.
consistent. That's my message. Anyone can do it because I've seen hundreds of loan officers that I've coached go from here to here, from here to here,
Right.
because they were consistent, not because of their personality, not because of where they lived, not because of, they had money or didn't have money or whatever it was. It was because of consistency. So that's my message today is,
Mm.
and that's why I like to call you Mr. Consistency, because I've seen you do it.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Yeah. No one's perfect at it, right? We make
No, it's
mistakes.
not. Yeah, listen, I struggle. There's a lot of days where I struggle, or I can be in the middle of a call block, or just you get a little bit tired or overwhelmed, or maybe I'm transitioning from the 12 to 15 friendly calls that I have on my list, and maybe a half a dozen of those went really well, and now I'm like I'm needing to go outside and do the cold calling. So over time, that's becoming less and less as my list grows. But, when I do that, I just take a break. There's no shame in taking a 5-minute break during the call, setting a timer, walking around, changing the scenery a little bit, and, getting yourself back in the mindset to say, listen, I got 40 more minutes to go. I have this goal. Let's just, it doesn't matter what happens. And then inevitably something good will happen during one of those calls. I have a meeting next Wednesday with a lady that I've been calling for 6 weeks, and she finally picked up the call. She did 22 buy sides last year, even more on the listing side, and she went. I offered something of value to her to get the appointment, and that something of value was moved to, which is
Wow.
a program where we could the listing agents can upload their listings to help showcase them on the streaming network services. So when she heard it was no cost, she's like, I'd be a fool, Glenn, not to learn about that and hear what you have to say. So I'd love to meet you for coffee next Tuesday.
That's
And
awesome. Think about all those people. And if you put a number, if you had the number of agents, the number of transactions, and how much you earned, which we won't talk about, on the podcast,
yeah,
exactly how much you earned on each one. But think about that number. And I want every loan officer listening to this. When you get somebody to say yes to you and you end up getting a deal from them for in whatever way you did it, whether it was on the phone, in a note card, on a text message, whatever it was, and now you have someone sending you business that didn't send you business before. Think about how much that equals out to in commission.
absolutely.
And it's a big number. It's powerful.
It's a healthy 5-figure sum
Yes, it really is.
over the course of a year.
Yes. And you get to help people at the same time.
Right.
That's what I love about the mortgage business is you get to help people in the most important transaction of their life. And you get to help the agent that they're working with, both agents.
Right.
You get to help everybody and you get to wow them. You get to give them the greatest service.
Mhm.
Which reminds me, you have sent your loan partner to our wow training.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and she's actually going to come back. She missed the second day, but she's coming
Right.
back.
Yeah, she was a little distraught over it, but no, I'm just seeing a tremendous, Tracy is certainly re-engaged and refocused and reinvigorated, and she's taking so much more off my plate than she ever has before. So I'm really grateful for that because I did have to make another staff change earlier this year when I did the 10 loans, and I was a little bit more involved than I should have been. So I made some corrective action, and I believe now for a processor or back end loan partner, I have a unicorn. So I'm
Yes.
really happy about that, and I'm excited about the future and the rest of the year. So
Oh, that's so
it's
great.
motivating. Yeah.
It couldn't happen to a nicer guy, Glenn. So
Okay.
I just want you to know it's an honor to be your coach. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful. You lift me up when we talk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really do. Just hearing how the light bulb moments that have happened over time,
Mm,
things that you've recognized, just the bulb went off, the light went
yeah.
on. It's just fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun for me to watch and to
Mm,
see the progress that you've made and
yeah.
with the challenges that you've had.
Absolutely. And it's never, it's never going to be perfect. It's just the model of the daily success plan. I can't talk about it enough, is that it frees you up to take care of everything else in your business and in your life that you need to take care of. So
Yes,
you're giving yourself an opportunity to succeed because you're doing consistent outbound marketing every day.
that's it.
And it's a cost that most of it is your time and effort and being on the phone.
And the
So,
daily success plan works in any business. In
absolutely.
any business. It might have to tweak it a little bit, but it's outbound calls, handwritten notes, and face-to-face appointments, and it works in any business.
Yeah,
So,
and absolutely, and I feel like even one of the things that I was, in the first quarter that I needed to implement is I felt like, I really didn't have much to do on Fridays, and so we talked about that. So I have it up on my whiteboard now in terms of, some of the things that we do on Fridays. Like everyone that I connected with, they get a thank you card. It goes out in the mail on Friday. So, right now I have anywhere from 20 to 30 thank you cards going out that are handwritten by me, and those are making the phone ring. And it's the feeling of, when you get a personal handwritten card from somebody, it takes it that much deeper, and it just shows people that you really do care.
yes.
And so, when that opportunity, that challenge comes up, or I don't know if the credit's going to work or their cash is a little bit tight, it's like, well, let's pick up the phone and call Glenn and find out. So it's just, people really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I really just try to exhibit that, because I'm a typical male. I could only do so much over the course of a day, but if I focus and when I'm intentional, it's just, good things happen. So
Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here today, Glenn. It was really an
yeah.
honor to have you. And just hearing your story, and I hope that I don't hope, I know other people that are loan officers have been inspired by listening to you today. So thank you for being here.
No, no, you're welcome. I appreciate it.
Enjoy your day, everybody. If you've got value from this, please share it with other people so that we can get the word out and get Glenn's voice out there to help inspire other people. We really appreciate you being here today, and enjoy the rest of your week.